Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everybody. Friends from home and abroad, I welcome you to this 16th episode of Community Talks on the title Meaning Making Social Justice and Human Rights in the Time of COVID-19. By the grace of Almighty, we are again with you today with three veteran professors, speakers from different countries. So I wholeheartedly welcome you to this show with me till the end of the session today. Again, I'm telling you, Community Talks, this is a community platform. This is a community leaders platform. This is a platform people from all walks of life. During this COVID, I have been hosting myself, Habib Rahman, Associate Professor and Head Department of Sociology and Social Work, the People's University of Bangladesh, and I'm the founding president of Community Social Work Practice and Development Foundation. So today, the session will be honored by three honorable veteran speakers from India and from South Africa. I would like to invite our honorable speakers today on that show. We are very honored to three veteran speakers today. Let me introduce first from here, right below, Dr. Shakti Prabha.
Good evening, Professor.
Prabha is here. She is Dean of Humanities Colleges in Chennai Hindustan College of Arts. Dr. Shakti, welcome you to this show today.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you. Very happy to be here.
He is Professor Prashant Chavan. Prashant Chavan, Professor, Department of Social Work, Amity University, Noida, India. Professor Chavan, welcome. I would like to
Thank you so much for inviting us and giving opportunity in this discussion.
All right, thank you. It's my honor, really. And let me introduce Professor Dr. Vishan Sipal. She's Emeritus Professor, University of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, and she's also Professor of University of Stavanger, Norway, and she was just finishing her contract and teaching from United Arab Emirates. Professor Vishanti, we welcome you to this show today.
Thank you, Professor Rahman. Namaste. It's good to be here.
All right, thank you. I'm really very honored. Actually, this is Community Talks. This is a Facebook platform, and it's hosted by Facebook and Community Talks YouTube channel. And I love to share, I have a foundation that is Community Social Work Practice and Development Foundation. Actually, it's my passion to involve people, to invite people just to share and caring process. So Community Talks is such a platform where people are invited from different corner of the world. Today's session is meaning making, human rights and social justice in the time of COVID-19. So it's a very, very time befitting and time apt idea topic today. We will go on discussion. Let me come first to Dr. Shakti Prabha. Actually, COVID messages on the television, statistics, death toll, affected people. We already stopped watching television because we feel bored this time. We are not feeling happy to see the messages again and again of death toll and increasing numbers. So how are you today, and what is the situation in your area on COVID? Please start sharing something in the inception talk today.
Thank you, Professor, and I'm very happy to share this virtual platform with other eminent speakers. So the situation in my state is really not good, because every day the numbers is keeping on increasing, and it is very essential to watch the news, because we have to keep on updating. And now also, the lockdown has started for us from today onwards. So from 19th to 30th, again we are going to be under lockdown. And it's very restricted now. Only few things are going to be available. So it is really very, very difficult. And so again, going through another. lockdown phase is a little difficult situation. So it's really a very difficult situation here. So we are looking forward to know some positive things to come in future. Thank you.
All right, good. Thank you, Dr. Shakti Prabha. Just let me come to Professor Prashant Chavan. You are looking very, very handsome today. Actually, this is the first time I'm seeing you in front, right? Face to face. Happy to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Please, sir.
Yeah.
So
So
how could
actually,
you share some feelings during this time, your family, your institutes, right, students, and I mean overall your community scenario?
yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to interact with people globally, I believe, and it is, and with so much excellent panel that we have today. And I'm watching your community talks like from the various weeks I'm looking, and they are very the kind of selection of speakers. So I think in this current pandemic situation, this is one of the best way as an academician that we can connect with people and we can give them some message that whatever the problems are there, but we can manage it, we can handle it. And I think being a social work faculty, we have some additional responsibilities. This is a time where we all are in a lockdown situation. We are, having online platforms we are using for all the academic work, teaching, and everything. So, in that aspect, I think, and a lot of negativities are being developed in the student fraternity and even in general also. And we all know that because of this situation, there is lot of economic loss. There is a lot of variety of issues are being developed. So I think this is the time where we have to very focus in a way, and we have to deal with the current situation as a responsible citizen, as a global stakeholder, as a important stakeholder of the community. And it's not about only that we take care ourselves. Being a social work academician, educator, and practitioner, I think this is our duty that we have to take care of others also, and in collaboration with maybe NGOs, maybe different in helping government and so on. So I think this is a very good way to interact. And anyhow, when we do organize conferences, seminars, so this is the only purpose that we listen people, experts, and anyhow we are getting this opportunity over virtually right now, that at least we are listening and we are meeting. So this is very great platform, and I think these kind of talks and initiatives definitely are benefiting public at large, and they are giving them awareness, and they are awareing them on certain issues and their responsibilities. This is very important. So very thank you so much, Habiburji, and I appreciate your this initiative, because Facebook is being utilized in various ways. But how we can use digital platforms in positive way, in a way so that we can engage people, connect with people, and involve the people. I think this is your job should be is a appreciation should be should be given to you. And India, you know that we will discuss later on. As you said, this is an introductory thing. So, being a university, we are also engaged in various activities. But in the later time, when we will discuss, I'll let you know what are the things we are doing here. So, thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Professor Chow. Excellent. Actually, let me come to. I will say something about National Association of Professional Social Work Network.
Yeah.
Actually, you are leading and you have been hosting a fantastic program there, right?
Yeah.
I regular and
Yes.
viewer on that. So thanks a lot, really, because this is, I think, this is the duty of the social worker during this time, as we are really helpless to support people having some logistic support, foods, and some other things sometimes. So at least we can share some knowledges through this platform that this is almost free. We can use sometime, and also
Yeah.
in question. So let me come to Dr. Vishanti. Actually, before coming to you, this is not question. We are allured to know many things from you today. Dr. Vishanti, you have a wide experiences from Middle East to Europe, then Africa. And that's why we have selected the title today, Meaning Making, Human Rights and Social Justice, which is a very suitable topic during this time. And actually, till today, understanding COVID, it's a question. How much or how could we understand COVID properly? So, initial time is 2 or 3 minutes, but I think it's better. Floor is open. You can go up to 20 minutes. Then we'll come a discourse. We three will be joining with you. Dr. Vishanti, please carry on.
Thank you, Professor Rahman. So you want me to go into my presentation, not just a minute introductory thing?
No, 2 minutes for your introduction, right?
Okay. Well, I don't know what you want in terms of an introduction, but ladies and gentlemen, it's really wonderful to be able to share this platform with Dr. Prabha and Professor Chauhan and with Professor Rahman, who's been doing an excellent job in trying to keep us connected during this time of COVID. Dr. Prabha told us that it's really important to keep track of the news. But I must say that on some days it did get a bit too much for me, and I had to go on a news fast. There are some days when I have been obsessed with the news, trying to track what's happening in all different countries and what were the social and political and economic factors at play, with regard to the way we're managing the COVID crisis. And at other times I felt I just wanted time out from it, because it did become too overwhelming. South Africa, we've seen in the recent days an exponential rise in numbers. We started off excellently during the lockdowns, but we now have over 80,000, COVID cases and about 1,700 deaths. And I think, like the world is watching, we're worried about what's going to happen when the virus really hits Africa badly, and when it hits Southeast Asia in worse ways than it is currently doing. Okay, so that's my 2 minutes.
Fantastic, great introduction. So the topic today, actually gradually we have been hosting this session and making some new topic. It has two dimensions. One is practical experiences sharing during this COVID time, post-COVID scenario, new normal situation, people's life, community engagement, social work engagement. So many things are here really. So to dear viewers, today's topic is meaning making, right? This is, of course, we must wait for that proper discussion from our three veteran speakers. But on that topic especially, I would request Dr. Vishanti to speak detail. Actually, few days back, we are in listening that in South Africa will be the hotspot in terms of COVID-19. Actually, after that, as we already stopped kind of rest in watching television and social media because we feel bored nowadays. So we are not updated properly what is going on in South Africa. Not only that, according to you, what is meaning of the COVID? How you feel from your life experiences? Would like to know, not from the book, your real life story. We'd be happy to listen from you, Dr. Vishanti.
Yeah. You said I could talk for about 20-25 minutes in this initial presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to say, when we're talking about COVID, there are certain realities I think that we have to accept. And I think the one big reality is that none of us is an expert. It's all too new. Right now, I know that, we've been talking about, flattening the curve and PPEs and everything as if it's been part of our vocabulary forever. But the truth is, before March of this year, I think both men and women across the globe, when we talk about flattening the curve, we were referring mainly to our bodies. not some graph that's being charted, country by country, that's reflecting, this rise and plateauing and peaks, of a pandemic that we only got to hear about, around about January, February. And even then, around about January, it belonged to some distant place, a city called Wuhan, that the majority of the world's population had not even heard about. And what COVID-19 has done, it's made us realize just how small the world is. That something that started in a little city of Wuhan has within, the blink of an eyelid, spread from one country to the other. And it shows the impact of our intensely globalized world. Now, we know that we are not the experts, but everybody wants to claim their space of eminence during this earth-shattering phase of our history. But I think even as we want to claim our spaces, we must have humility and wisdom enough to listen to the medical, empirical, scientific evidence and not be influenced by the politicians, who just push their own party political and partisan agendas. And I think that's part of the COVID crisis that we are seeing, that there is so much of denial around it. There's so much of fake news and conspiracy theories. If you're anything normal like me, you must be getting lots of emails and WhatsApp messages on a daily basis. And it's extremely hard as we struggle to make sense of it all. Now, I think like HIV/AIDS, when it first started, everybody was pointing fingers from one to the other about who created this whole thing and who was to blame. But I think the time right now is not to question where COVID came from. What we need to focus on is our responses to the pandemic. And I think, like Professor Chauhan says, as responsible, engaged citizens and as social workers, we have a moral responsibility, I think, to check our facts and to convey accurate data. And if we're not sure, please do not forward, right? Initially, we questioned whether COVID-19 might be this great equalizer that the world is so much in need of. Unfortunately, what we're finding is that COVID-19 is exacerbating inequalities. But more disturbing, I think, for us as social workers, we're not only dealing with the COVID pandemic. What we're dealing with are the pandemics of racism, child sexual abuse, and gender-based violence. And the gender-based violence is often linked to femicide as well. And I think South Africa almost tops countries in this respect, this thing. And these are scourges that social workers are all too familiar with. South Africa is reflecting a global pattern with regard to domestic violence, gender-based violence, especially during lockdowns. The executive director of UN Women said that the COVID pandemic is actually bringing forward the shadow pandemic of violence against women. Now, we mustn't forget these other things that almost become secondary and become hidden because so much of our emphasis is on COVID-19. The lockdowns have actually contributed to people being forced to spend extended hours with each other under extremely stressful conditions, where people have lost their jobs, they're not employed, they're having financial constraints, and there's food insecurity, and people tend to take out their frustrations on each other. And those are conditions like for the perfect storm, where women are stuck in households with controlling partners and they do not have access to their regular support structures around them. And I think what for us as social workers, it's also disturbing is that, like with HIV/AIDS, COVID is disproportionately infecting and affecting those who are poor. Now, I think all of us have been watching the news and we seeing what's happening around that, and we see, the existing inequalities and the power imbalances becoming even more entrenched. And what we're seeing is that the social fault lines, around along the lines of race, of gender, of class, of nationality are running deep. And this is tearing asunder even some of the most developed economies of the world. So while COVID-19 does not discriminate and it affects everybody, we know that discrimination does play. And I think the most vulnerable at the moment are undocumented migrants who work in the care sector. We know that they very rarely have state social security. They do not have emergency aid provisions. So they work in the most precarious of conditions that may infection. Poor economies, like India, Bangladesh, South African and South Asian countries, we know that it's not only foreign nationals, it's also people who work in the domestic sector, and the majority of them are women. And for many of them, staying at a country that they could barely afford.
Internet is a big issue now, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So later come, actually, Prashant Chawan, what about you? I mean, about your area, that the program you have been hosting by National Association of Social Professional Network, right? So far I could watch, this is a fantastic program and so many scholars are coming, sharing. So could you please share something meantime about the professional?
I don't know.
I think
We
she
were
has joined.
disconnected.
She has joined.
No, it's all right. You can carry on. No problem.
Yeah, please.
Okay. I'm not going to go into too much of detail about that, but we know that across the world, disaggregated data shows us that people of color, like in Europe and in America, even Canada and so on, are disproportionately affected. In New York City, Latinos and Black people are dying out of COVID at twice the rate compared with their white counterparts. And across the world, UNICEF predicts that and says that there are about 40% of the world's population that do not have basic hand washing facilities in their homes. And in the least developed countries, this goes up to as much as 75%. And we know the facts in terms of hand washing and sanitizing and things like that being crucial to preventing the spread of COVID-19. Now, given the enormity of the impact of COVID-19, and we know that we've seen global rates and deaths, across the world and so on, I think it's almost natural and expected that we try to interpret COVID-19 from a religious and spiritual point of view. And I think there are some who believe that it is a reflection of God's anger, God's wrath upon humanity for our wrongdoing, for our lack of respect for the earth, and taking all that we have for granted in terms of what Mother Earth offers to us. But again, I feel if we do believe that we have a God that's loving and benevolent, we know that it is not the design of God or the universe or our higher power, whatever our beliefs are, right, to punish us in this way. I think, like with many other catastrophes of our lives, It is brought about by human action. Somewhere along the line, it is human action that has contributed to this. And yes, we need prayer, right? But our prayers must be accompanied by constructive action. And Trump and his followers must know, right, that while we open up our religious institutions and while we have our prayers, these are no substitutes for the wearing of masks and for physical distancing. For those who are following the news, I think it's heartbreaking considering that there are over 107,000 people who died in the US, and the head of state moves around, with a whole groups of people, whole entourage, no physical distancing, no face masks. And I think that's sad because people follow their leaders. I think some of the questions in terms of meaning making around COVID, that people have been asking in different ways. Is COVID-19 going to be the great liberator that frees humankind from the chains of its own greed? Would COVID-19 induce a fundamental reordering of human values that would help us to heal the world? Might it force us to acknowledge what we have always known, but we choose to ignore? The profound and inexplicable interconnectedness between the self and the universe. Is it a harbinger of a global collective awakening of consciousness? And is it a warning that if we as human beings refuse to take care of the whole of nature, nature will take care of itself? Now, we know, and this has been, popular on the media, social media, and everything, that the lockdowns across the world have been seeing a cleaner, a greener, and a less polluted world. I mean, there are reports of the clarity of Venice's canals. I think the beaches in India as well, and the rivers in India are cleaner. The dolphins are reclaiming their spaces on the coast of Italy, the deer in the streets of Japan, and the monkeys are reclaiming their rightful habitat, in the world around us. And people are, saying what we've seen in a short space of time it's actually been amazing. In fact, some people believe it's nothing short of miraculous, what we've witnessed, with the lockdowns that we've had. So my question then is, why is the world not shouting out and screaming, hurrah, coronavirus? You're doing a great job. You're here to stay, Now, I think, when we confronted with something as big as this, it is uncanny how we attribute to an invisible, destructive virus animate properties. We talk about it as being the oppressor or the liberator. I mean, as it is in the nature of sugar to sweeten something, right? It is in the nature of this virus to create death and destruction. It is its nature, right? But the liberating or the oppressive potential rests not on COVID. It rests on us as humankind and how we choose to respond to it. It is human beings that have the power to liberate or to enslave. It is not the virus. Now, hopefully, the lessons learned during this lockdown will contribute to humanity's commitment to a more sustainable, a cleaner, greener, and less polluted world. Hopefully, it will contribute to us halting global warming. Hopefully, it will contribute to us not plundering the earth as we have been doing, right? In our drive for profit, in our pursuit of greed, in our neoliberal capitalist world. It is not COVID-19 that's going to shape our destinies. It is motivated human action that will shape our destinies. Now, as human beings, we use empirical data and sometimes not so empirical data. And at times we use outright superstition, myths, blind faith, and common sense, taken for granted assumptions to assert our truths. Now, we are human, and some degree of superstition runs, I think, through the veins of all of us human beings, even if we want to assert our eminent rationality. Right? Now, it is all very well for me as an individual, if I believe that if I put 2 amulets on me, it's going to protect me from coronavirus. Okay? But what when you have a head of state who is the leader of about 129 million people who holds this view? I think then it does border on danger. And that has happened, with the Mexican president, Lopez Obrador, who felt and said, actually, that he's got protective shields, amulets that will prevent his country's people from contracting COVID-19. He resisted physical distancing, continued with mass rallies and shaking of hands, even as the numbers of cases in Brazil were escalating. And that's not so different, from the Tanzanian president, who in the effort to gain the constituencies, the Christian constituencies of the country and their votes, made the claim that coronavirus cannot survive the body of Christ. It will burn. Now, these are myths, when held by global leaders, are exceptionally dangerous. Now, as COVID-19 takes its toll, spreading from one country to the other, I think global leaders and all of us have a responsibility to deal with it with the severity that it deserves, and to ensure that we take precautionary measures to prevent its spread. We know that its consequences are leaving no country and no sector untouched, right? But in acknowledging the severity of the virus, I think it is equally important that we balance it with hope and optimism. We know that the world has seen other calamities, and we've come through it. And I think with solidarity, we will come through this too. And hopefully, we will minimize some of the negative aspects of our human nature. And what will rise in this is our capacity to demonstrate love, care, compassion, kindness, and solidarity. We must not racialize COVID-19. It should not be used as an excuse to foster narrow-minded nationalism. And I think this is the sad reality. COVID is providing right-wing conservatives with that opportunity to say, well, now we have a valid reason to close borders and build up our walls, right? It is not a black or a white virus. It is not Chinese, it is not Italian, it is not Spanish, it is not Iranian, it is not Russian. We must not believe Trump when he keeps saying that it is a Chinese virus. It knows no color, it knows no religion, it knows no nationality. In fact, quite the contrary. If it's anything, COVID-19 is showing us just how intertwined our fates are across the world. None of us is immune to infection, but prevention, in this case, quite literally lies in our hands. It rests in our hands. Our governments can make policies, right? They can put down regulations. It can put in place mechanisms for testing, tracing, quarantine, isolation, and so on, right? It can try to ensure that we have enough infrastructure and capacity in place for treatment. But it also depends on each one of us, right? To play our role and do our bit to prevent transmission and to dispel the myths and to share accurate information. COVID-19 is also alerting governments, I think, to the critical importance of infrastructure development, the building of our health, education, and social systems, and very importantly, the need for access to piped clean water. With washing of hands being one of the central preventive measures, nations can rise or fall in the face of COVID-19 based on the proportion of their populations that have access to decent housing, sanitation, and water. The pattern that is emerging is that apart from these things, trust in government and national leadership are powerful factors in dealing with the virus. So it is therefore not surprising that the USA is the epicenter of the virus. We know the lack of leadership there, right? We know the denialism, we know the late response, we know that there's been the blame game that's going on to, offset the focus on the leadership's own failures, right? And it's really, really sad. And with Jair Bolsonaro from Brazil mirroring Trump, it is not at all then surprising that Brazil has topped Russia to become the second leading number of cases in the world. Now, we are living in an unprecedented time when physical distance means hope and keeping alive. But for many people who live in overcrowded townships or shacks, informal settlements, physical distance is a luxury that they can barely afford. And for others, getting their daily bread takes precedence over the threat of the virus. Now, we are astounded by the numbers of people who are infected by the coronavirus. But friends, I think what we need to understand and truly appreciate that each number is a person. It is a father, a mother, a husband, a wife, a lover, a brother, a sister, a child, a friend, a colleague. And love in the time of COVID for so many means not spending time with loved ones when we need it most. It also means dying alone in isolated hospital wards. For many, it means having no funeral and families not having the opportunity to say goodbye and to reach closure. Then all of this hits us, not at the level of the head only, but right at our hearts. And COVID is prompting many of us to reflect on our relationships with people around us. And maybe we would take this as the opportunity to really examine ourselves closely. Perhaps it's time to give up old grudges. Perhaps it's time to forgive and to be forgiven. Perhaps it's time to recognize our embodied and our common vulnerability that all 7 billion people across the universe right now share. Perhaps it's time to question our own values, our relationship to our higher power, and to deeply reflect on our life's purpose. Now, as I said before, it is the nature of the virus to create death and destruction. And at the moment, it's on a mass scale. And we are hopeful, with the global collaboration that we have, that we will soon have at least treatment in place, and hopefully before the end of the year, if we can be really hopeful, that we would have some vaccine. But I think because it is so destructive, many of us as human beings are beginning to confront our own mortality, and I know that on a very personal level, it has done so for me. Now, from the middle of last year into March this year, I'd been on the go, traveling, to Sweden, Norway, Portugal, USA, Panama, many places, work related, and just didn't have the time to sit down, and do many of the things that I would like to do. But one of the things is that, I went to the Seychelles, came back on the first week of March, and I would have just planned and gone to Norway, for my next teaching engagement there. But COVID, said otherwise. It took control over my life as it has taken over the control over the lives of many other people. And I thought, oh, well, I'm grounded, so I'd better make that appointment with my cardiologist. I had my first heart attack in 1996. And I had to have 2 stents done. And in between, I had another minor incident and I had to have another stent done. And in 2010, I had major quadruple bypass surgery, right? And I was, out of it and ill for quite a while at that time. And my cardiologist has been telling me that I need to come in for a diagnostic angiogram. And I'd been always putting it off because I'm too busy. But because of my COVID-19 groundedness, I made that appointment and I really adopted a nonchalant attitude towards it. I thought I'm going to go, the angiogram is going to be done, and I would be given a clean bill of health and it would be no problem. I mean, so much so that I told my daughter, there's no reason for you to drive me to the hospital. I'll just go, the test will be done, and, I'll be back home. But I think, to put it mildly, the results of the angiogram constituted the death of my sense of invincibility. I was told that there was severe narrowing of the blood vessels, that the grafts that were done in 2010 had all collapsed, and that some of my native vessels were narrowing. And I was told that on an immediate level, if something's not done, I could lose my legs. So I needed to have emergency surgery done. So they called in a vascular surgeon, put in 2 stents on the left and right common iliac vessels. So it's fine for now. But again, the impact of COVID. My coronary vessels need to be sorted out, but I have to wait until the corona crisis is over, because, so many of the hospital beds, are repurposed for corona cases. But the thing is, when I asked my cardiologist and they said, but Dr. Hansa, if it is so bad, how come I'm feeling so good? And he said, you're living on faith and hope. Some people are very resilient. Now, the results of the angiogram certainly constituted the death of my sense of invincibility. But what it did not impact was my sense of hope. So what did I do? I think this diagnosis galvanized me into action. So what I did is that I used my COVID-19 to write my memoir. There was, because of the diagnosis and COVID and realization that, we are not immortal, we got to face our mortality, there was a sense of urgency, and I wrote my memoir within 8 weeks. So
All right.
This is the impact of the coronavirus. Is my time up?
Yeah, we can actually, if we think we can stop. And again, coming to you, having so many comments, Dr. Vishanti, just to ask you, just to ask Dr.
Yeah, no, we can stop there, and we could take questions. That's okay.
Yeah. I'm just coming back to you, and 3 of you just having some greetings and questions. So many questions remaining to you and Dr. Shukti and Prashant, right?
Oh, so okay.
All right. Just let me read out some of the points from here.
The other 2 speakers?
Before coming to them, also before coming to you, let me read out 2 points from that question. Then I think we can just look into and put some suggestions to them. So many comments. Mr. Alamin wrote, Assalamu alaikum, sir, good evening. Mehrul Labani, good evening, sir. This is actually courtesy call they're making. Imran bin Rauf, stay safe, COVID-19 community concern, specially guest talking about motivated, very good. Vijay Mahazan, hello everyone. Mansur Ali, it's my pleasure to extend a cheerful welcome to all of you. Your presence makes us very happy. Lots of thanks from inner part of my heart, dear Habib sir. Thank you. Rajia Mukta. Welcome, Honorable Sir and Ma'am, today's episode. Sharmin Akhtar Akhi, valuable discussion. Pratibha Mishra wrote, Professor Pratibha J. Mishra, Department of Social Work, Head Department of Sociology, Head Department of... actually, she greeted us. Thank you, Pratibha, and she asked questions later on. Nure Safat, Assalamu alaikum, sir. Pradipta Kadambari from Nepal. She greeted us. Hi, good evening, everybody. Nure Safat, hello. Honorable Sam, Madam. Pratibha Mishra, inequality will increase assassin post-COVID. How to handle it? This is a question to be noted, Dr. Prashant and Dr. Shakti. This, after COVID, assassination might be actually increased. So she wrote it here. Inequality is a matter there. Russell Hussain, Assalamu alaikum, sir. Pratibha Mishra, in post-COVID social justice term will have different connotation for social work. Human rights-based approach will be there or not? This is a question also. In post-COVID, in social work, human rights-based approach will be there or not? Point to be noted. Jahangir Alam, hello, good evening to all. Dimple Mishra from Delhi. Hello, all renowned persons. I'm Dimple Mishra, research scholar from IGNOU, Delhi. Pleasure to be a part of this discussion. Omar Chen, well discussed about relevant topic. Pratibha Mishra wrote, invisible violence is there with women, children, and adolescent girls. It increasing day by day trafficking. How to deal with that? So trafficking is a matter here. This is a question we might have some input on that. Srishti Yadav, good evening, sir and ma'am. Pratibha Mishra, how to deal with the invisible challenges due to COVID? Actually, COVID that Professor Vishanti told that this is invisible. We know this is invisible, but how we could deal with the invisible challenges of this virus and during, post-COVID also. Pradipta Kadambari wrote, it's very true that COVID-19 is bringing the discrimination against the powerless in different level of our social and political construct. She commented very nicely. Thank you. Anurag Chauhan, well, discrimination comes from our education system. That needs to change. Yeah, it's good. Good point. Omar wrote, assistant professor psychology. Actually, she greeted. Thank you, Omar. Raja Emmanuel. First of all, we will avoid say social distance. Yeah, it should be physical distance. We corrected it, right? And every day we're telling thank you for your correction and concern. Really, Yashika. Teresa, good evening, sir and ma'am. Nure Safa, very important discussion. Shem Shing, very good evening to all. Anurag Chawan. There is so many things that are influenced by the British and solely followed as a role in our country. But it's high time to reform these foolish concepts, ideology, and mend our ways. Anurag Chawan wrote from India. So, Professor, I request Professor Chawan to take these notes and just put some input on that. Raja Emmanuel, social distance may cause discrimination, called human distance. Good point. Alamin wrote, nice comment, ma'am, Vishwanti. Mr. Singh wrote, very informative discussion. Pratibha Mishra, how to deal with psychosocial support from religion. Actually, spiritual healing, it might be related to that one. So please put on that. Psychosocial support from religion, spiritual healing, religious part. Sanjina Khaim Alam wrote, good evening. Pratibha wrote, they are not taking care of advisory. Pratibha Mishra, I think every crisis is turned into challenges. I am sure this with COVID also, of course. And of course, we should try collectively to make all the challenges to opportunities after this time and during this time by our collective efforts. Anurag Chawan wrote, yes, environment is better and it's beautiful, but whole point for how long would it sustain? Actually, during the discussion of Professor Vishanti, he wrote it here. This is uncertain. Few minutes back when I was watching TV, my daughter came to me and just told me, Father, it might be sustained another 3 years. Actually, it's creating some panic among the people that uncertainty is a matter during this COVID time. Nobody can assure us really how long it might go on. Aritaka Kimura from Japan, thank you for your hot discussion. It's midnight in Japan. I will watch recording morning tomorrow. Thank you. Anurag Chandrid, we need to be sensitive towards our environment. Most of us, unfortunately, aren't. It doesn't make me happy because I'm wondering, would it remain the same even after the lockdown opens up? Actually, people are bored. They were just asking, they are feeling, they are uttering some voices. It's true. Thank you, Anurag Chand. Very fantastic comments you are making, like other viewers and friends. Pratibha Mr. wrote, it is invisible lesson to us to see how nature works and human being is how helpless. We need to follow the oneness and togetherness to live the great. Very good point, Chile. Anurag Chavan wrote, can we allow, actually in Pratibha Mr. comment, we have something to take notes from this, that togetherness and oneness and great, these are the terms really here. We might be corrected and we can just share with our friends. Anurag wrote again, can we allow other guests to speak to? Yeah, it's coming. We are coming soon. Actually, I request to Vishanti, Professor Vishanti, in an elaborative discussion, then we can go on that. Thank you. Mansoor Ali, how can we get rid of racism? This question to Dr. Shipal. Pratibha Mr. Humanity is needed for survival necessary. It's lesson. Actually, I'm taking all the questions, then we'll go on discussion. That would be nice, I think. Nagaraju, Habibji, good evening to all speakers. Prashant, Shakti, and Madam Vishanti, all are very good professionals. Meghnauddin from UK, environmentally, there have been many positive, hoping lessons learned and sustained. Indeed, however, there are areas human nature that we may go back to old ways, as seen in some Western countries, that littering has started soon as lockdown has been lifted, as seen in some areas of London City and other cities. Habib Rahman, thank you for interesting discussion by your guest. Globally, we are in all this together. Thank you. Pratibha Mr. wrote, so many problems of society is facing just because of undue and illogical way of human being of certain parts of world. Mansoor Ali wrote, racism is more than just words, beliefs, and actions. It includes all the barriers that prevent people from enjoying dignity and equality because of their race. Dimple Mr. wrote, nature can heal itself if we stop plundering and devastating it. Instead of using the term social distancing, physical distancing should be used. Actually, we are using physical distancing in all the social medias. Rather, thank you, Dimple. Thank you for your nice correction and comment. Amjad Hussain Apu, we learned some social and natural development. We are hopeful. In near future, worldwide remedy will discover. Thank you. Pratibha again wrote, we need to go for oneness and brotherhood in the world. Nagaraju commented here, also this session is very important to all. Meghna Uddin, definitely we should not racially discriminate. Unfortunately, this is being done and we are in our ways need to spread positively. Very good. Pratibha wrote, prevention and precautions with altars. Actually, not all our questions, some comments are here. I'm just coming back to you. Pratibha Mr. wrote, now health will get more attention. Anurag, I don't think the planet will die. The earth is too powerful. She is lived through hotter times, colder times. She is lived with dinosaurs, with this dinosaurs, right? She will live with human beings and without human beings. We are dispensable. She will find a way, but we need to protect our home. Very good point. Anurag wrote, I would be greatest stupidity. It would be greatest stupidity that rules us today to let the water system, the food system, and the planetary climate system get destroyed. Very good point. Actually, environment issue, it's a great concern. Anurag wrote many things. There are so many comments. Just one comment I'm taking from here. I will come again to take some points from here. Just one question: how rights of street children can be protected during this COVID and post time, sir and madam? So let's come to Dr. Shukti Prabha. Actually, this is your turn. Time is 3 to 4 minutes, just child rights, and there are so many things, but environment and other parts, actually racism. I will come back to Dr. Vishanti to speak on that. So your turn is here. Spiritual healing, child rights, right? The child rights and human rights relate. You can please go on.
Thank you, Professor. Actually, it is one of my very interesting area where I really like to share. Child rights is very, very important because it is very important to protect our children, in terms of right of participation and right of freedom, right to education. This is all very basic need in this COVID-19 scenario. So this pandemic has brought a lot of children into risky situation also, because we hear that a lot of children are exposed to violence, and there is also a rise in child abuse, and a lot of domestic violence is on rise, which is indirectly affecting the children's. So it is very important that we have to do an individual effort as well as collective effort to handle this problem. So we have to look into all the right perspective of the children. We say that stay home, stay safe, but what are we going to say the children who are living on the streets? Because they spend most of their time in the streets and they don't have a home. So how will they stay safe? This is a very big question. So a lot of NGOs are working in these areas, and they are trying to collect database of how many children are on the street and what kind of prevention strategies and education measures can be provided to the children. So government needs to bring a lot of new programs and initiatives to protect the children who are on the street. It is very, very essential. The another area is what I want to highlight is right to health of the children's. If you see in our rural and all the urban and other areas, most of the children were getting nutritious food through their ICDS, Integrated Child Development Scheme. So they'll go to the school and they'll have midday meal. But now what happens, due to the school closing, they don't have access to this nutritious meal. But we hear that the meal is given and it is delivered to the home, but we are not sure whether it's reaching each and every children in the community. If this nutritious meal is not reaching these children, then again the malnutrition problem will be a challenge. So it is very important that this area has to be taken into consideration. Another area is immunization, because for past few months, lot of importance, we are totally thinking about COVID, pandemic, unrelated, but what is happening to the regular activities of the Anganwadis, what they are working on, immunization program and taking care of pregnant mothers. All these this area needs to be strengthened. And now the children are sitting at home, and anyway, the children who are economically better off, they are able to attend the online classes. But we also have a certain big section of children who do not have access to network and the high mobile phones which we are using. So it is very difficult. So even as a teacher, we are able to see that in a class we are not able to reach so many children. So it is very difficult situation, and it becomes a very important responsibility of the teachers and the teachers in the institutions to see that all the important education material reached to those children also. So that is also being challenged during this pandemic period. Another important area is the child abuse. Actually, I have really listened to many people say that many children are not safe at home. And when they come to the school and they really share a lot of emotions with the teachers, now that is not there. Since they are sitting at home, we don't know how many children are having problems, or they are under the unsafe condition. Another important thing is that the reporting of the cases. Many experts say that through the child line we receive a lot of cases are there. More than 800 and odd cases had been received in the few months. But still it is taken that many cases are not reported, because it's like a stigma. They feel that if can I say out what is happening to me? So that is also another important aspect in this pandemic. And second thing, do we have a platform to listen to the voices of the students? Because we as adults, we sit and we express what we want and what is needed. So there is a need for a platform for the children to say what they feel on their point of view. I just want to share one thing what I saw in media yesterday. There was one boy who was talking about the online classes. But I think we have to give a little bit importance to that. He was telling that there is a lot of homework has to be done, and he feels really very fed up, listening and sitting and concentrating on the screen for a long hours. So it is really making him little difficult, and a lot of people are sharing those videos. We can take on the both the way. One is a positive side is that the education is going on. Another side is that there is a little negative impact on the children's also. That also has to be taken into consideration. Another important area is the other problems which sometimes the children are neglected. That is also has to be taken care. So these are the various rights have been affected during this pandemic. And another area which I want to highlight is the health problem of the children. You know that a lot of children are suffering with a lot of health problems, and they have to take continuous treatment with the hospitals. And past few months, what we have observed is more of concentration on handling the COVID positive people, because this, as Professor Vishanti said, this is very uncertain, and we didn't know how it is going to happen. So it is definitely for the government to take effective measure and handle and provide proper treatment for these people who are positive. So what is the condition of these children who have to go to regular hospitals and take treatment? So that is also one important area which we really see in this COVID-19 pandemic period. So this COVID-19 pandemic is not only affecting us physically or with physiological symptom, but also psychologically, and also it brings lot of problems among the children and the women. So it is very important that it is not only the responsibility of the government to take the action. I feel it is a responsibility of each and every person to take action in this particular area. I always know Professor Rahman says that we should break the silence. So that is what even I want to say. So we have to speak out. We have to tell. We have to spread a lot of awareness among the people on these particular issues. I like to share a few initiatives which is going on in my state. There are a lot of NGOs and a lot of people, social activists who are really contributing very important field. So one is that they have a forum where the children can come and express what they want. So they listen to what is going on their mind and what is their expectation from the government and all other authorities. So that is one good thing which is happening. Very recently, I was able to get all this information. It was very interesting to listen what children feel at this point of COVID-19 and what are they expecting. And really, they are very bored sitting at home and they want a change. So that is very, very essential during this period. They also said that how are we going to go to school after this pandemic is over? So they were suggesting that the lot of disinfection activity has to be carried on. How are we going to take care of the prevention methods like wearing mask, washing hands, and how it's going to be monitored? If the children are not coming to school regularly, how are we going to monitor? Because there are a lot of issues like child laborers, child prostitution. So now the teacher's responsibility is definitely going to increase to find out why a particular child is not coming to the school, what is happening to the child, what is his condition, and even the health checkup also has to be taken care. So these are the very lot of important areas where really we have to need to work on. So it is not only the responsibility of the government and NGO, it is the responsibility of each and every person in the community to spread awareness on handling this. Definitely there is going to be inequality. I do agree on that. So there is a lot of initiatives has to be taken in these areas to bring equal distribution of resources. And another area which I want to say is the migrant laborers, because we see a lot of people in our country, they are moving from one state. What about the children of these migrant laborers? Their education has been stopped. What are the other facilities what these children are going to be deprived of? So all these areas need to be worked on. So these are my concerns, what I feel from my point of view. Thank you, Professor.
All right. Very good. Actually, there are so many comments. We are just summing up, making some points. So I would come to Dr. Prashant. And before coming to it, just let me read few questions from here. So many comments are coming still. From bottom, I'm just coming mid part of that. Kasturi Sinha wrote, child marriage is also increasing as the parents feel, what's going to be less expansive. That's my observation. Actually, they wrote the observation, current experience and scenario. Pratibha wrote child protection need again more attention. Yeah, it's good. Everywhere it's true. Pratibha Mr. wrote they have now mood swing disease and very much frightened about school. Pratibha wrote uh, delinquencies also increase, I mean, adolescent and child delinquency. So, Kadamburi wrote, Pradipta from Nepal, to continue overcoming the crisis, it's good to have some meaningful work and some routine. Yeah, the online classes is meant to this, but their issue of digital divide among haves and have not, big question. Since this is a situation of not uh, one size fit, just Professor Prashant, could you please note down digital education, online support that we are giving students, but not equally, have and have not, or have not have. There is an argument, so all students getting not equal facilities. It creates some frustration among the students, kind of torture. This is, of course, the avoidance of rights they're not getting. And Pratibha wrote such fear, anxiety, stress is there with children, and rate of suicide, depression is increasing. Kosturishina wrote, I have heard that the menstrual health of the adolescent girl is being hampered in rural. Actually, routine is broken everywhere in all sense. That's a concern. Jahidul Islam Junior wrote, nice, sir. Pratibha wrote, no ventilation of filling is there. It's good. We are not getting proper data on the basis of gender. It's a question. And Pratibha Mr. wrote, adolescent girls are situation is more worse. They are also harassed. Pratibha wrote online classes is a curse to children nowadays, and they suffer from various problems. Actually, there are so many common questions, more or less similar. So, as a social worker, this is also our concern. Social work believes to find some solutions, to counsel, to actually nurture people, providing some therapy, right? Counseling. So, Professor Chawan, how could you actually give your thought in that part? There are so many, you already read this question. There are so many areas to mention, really.
Yeah.
So you may highlight students area. Carry on, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, and obviously this is a live session, so one of the best aspects is this, that any person has any query or any aspect, so they can
Yeah.
actually speak. You know, they are not in
Right,
front of us in a hall, but they can express their thoughts, they can question, and it's very good that you are reading comments and you are giving them recognition because
No, this is a ventilation, Professor. This is
yeah.
a ventilation process,
Yeah.
right?
And people feel personalized, you know, that when his or her name is being called, and you know, so
Right,
it's a
right.
good gesture from you. I appreciate your thing. So I think already, you know, the very tough job is this when you speak at last, I think, and normally people were saying this, but I think
Right.
this is true because already we have spoken and covered various aspects. As the questions which I am, because I'm just telling that Anurag Chauhan is also, you know, our student in Amity University. He's a MSW doing. So he's very active running an NGO. So he's also here. Many other students have also joined. So I'm just starting with this current situation that when we are talking about this current pandemic issues, and I think there is a lot of information. I think when we are talking about awareness, so I think there is a overflow of information somehow. And there is another perspective which I have, you know, observed within people, that when they say that I'm stopped watching news channels, you know, and maybe I have stopped using, you know, reading newspapers, because wherever you see, so there are reporting is being, you know, for information is there, but there is a kind of negativity which is basically, you know, coming in their different minds of the people, and due to this, as you have seen that a lot of cases are came up in this situation, the mental health. This is one of the area which is being when you see that people a person is very nice, healthy, and every aspect is there, but on the other hand, mentally that person is not perfect, and because of that, that person maybe looks like he is happy, or maybe he is satisfied, he has everything, but that person has lot of issues, anxiety and depression. So this is one of the important area where as a social worker, as a faculty, as practitioners, we should look into it. And obviously when I see that all the stakeholders of the community, especially women, children, and for all the aspects, either environment, so everything is being affected. Affected, when I say, it may be somehow, it has some positive impact somehow, somewhere maybe somehow it is negative. So if I take up environment, then obviously during the lockdown period there was very less pollution. There was the roads were empty, and there was minimized use of fuel, petrol, diesel. So because of that, factories, industries were closed at that time, and the effect of that was that it was having a good impact on the environment, in the air pollution, in the in the water. Basically, all the rivers were very clean during that period. When I see the aspect of this, especially the women and children, and I appreciate Shakti ji who speak earlier, that she covered all the aspects. But I think the kind of questions which are coming now, this online classes and the education system, digital question, and I think you also asked to discuss this point. I'm just sharing my personal experience. I'm writing one article on this, one research paper, and in terms of what is the status of education in current this pandemic situation, and especially in the government setup. Because when I see private schools and colleges, so they have certain amount of status of children, and they have laptops, mobiles, and other facilities, internet. But when we go to the deeper, the rural areas, or the a specific strata of the society, so there is a very very less number of resources they have. I was speaking to one government school teacher. He was telling, sir, we are using WhatsApp, we are sharing information with the students, but there are a lot of challenges. If only 20 to 25% students have mobile phone, or other means, so that they can check this. Phones are there, with single phone is there, their parents are using, maybe they are working somewhere, or maybe they are doing some other work. So that was the one aspect which was very very alarming, that when we are talking about this kind of online education, so what will happen to those kids, those who are not face of this problem? Because children and are not being talked, they are not being addressed, they are invisible part of the society now, because when you see the other aspects are coming, but as such children are not being discussed, and children are not being highlighted in a way. Though a lot of NGOs, lot of UNICEF and various organizations are highlighting this, but I think digital education is one of the very challenge. Today morning, I was listening to the Minister of Women and Child Development. She was a guest in our university in one Amity Youth Forum, the inauguration of that program, and she very rightly said that, can we have an idea that we can contribute in terms of giving resources to the people, those who are can use this digital platforms, they can learn something, and they can part of that system. But there is a basic two problems, that they do not have devices, and they do not have the access to the internet, and internet is also not available everywhere. and maybe if it is available, then there is a speed issue, and who will recharge the data? So the teachers were saying that somehow we have through Paytm recharged and said, ki, okay, you do this and that. So I think this is one of the area as a social workers. I from this platform, I just want to say that where we have to come forward, where we have to think at large, and this is the time for action, because if we only discuss, then things will not come up, and we can't blame only governments wherever, whether in this country or in any other country. So it's about your participation, and I think being a social worker, this is our duty, that how to manage resources and how to contribute in all these aspects is one of the important area that we should chip in. Either it is a professional bodies, either it is through the universities social responsibility aspect, either it is through NGOs, individual responsibilities of the students. So I think we have to make a very wide campaign kind of thing in this, and we have to think on these aspects, how we can contribute on this. Because if we only criticize that what will happen by this, what will happen, so nothing will come up. I think we should have some suggestions. So social workers only are known for their solutions. So I'm stressing here upon that we should have some concrete solutions, see how we can take part. And I think people were, I was discussing somewhere, the people were saying that this is very tough time for social workers. Maybe because everyone is being affected by this overall situation, economically, socially. So, but right now, I think this is our duty that we should contribute in this current situation in a way so that we can help the society, and we can engage different resources. And I think the way we are doing it, like this is the substitute what we are having discussions. I know Rahmanji since 2 3 years, and he invited me in one conference also. I thought I will go to Bangladesh, but I was not able to. But right now, digitally, at least we are at the same platform, and we are discussing whatever I want to say, and we are listening others also. So I think in similar way, when there is a will, there is a way. So I think in that aspect, for children, for women, I think some concrete plan of action is required. I'm just adding the fieldwork component of social work here. There is a lot of challenge with us right now, that what will happen to the concurrent field work, how we are going to do it, whether it will be online, and how we are going to tackle this. And when we are saying that for social workers, field is the lab for them. So what we can best do in this current situation, I think in that model we have to rethink, and this through this talks program, and I think this community talks and action also should be added in this, so that whatever we are discussing, it should come up with some concrete action plan. And everyone, those who are addressing or maybe listening or part of these talks, should contribute. And it's not about only one country, I'm talking about all the, globally, because in this digital world, everything is possible. And I think this is one of the aspect that we should come forward, we should contribute. One more important aspect I just want to take up here, that mental health wala, that mental health is an obviously area where we have seen that the psychology people are coming forward. As such, social workers are not so much being visible in this during pandemic situation, when we see the counseling, telephonic counseling, or maybe the other aspects. So I think this is one area where social workers should come forward and show your strength, and that you are one of the important part stakeholder. It's not about that who is engaging you, it's about that how you are coming forward and taking part in this. Because in this pandemic situation, as such, when we are talking about frontline workers, so professional social workers were not as such being covered by anyone or being addressed by anyone. And there is a reason, because we were not able to highlight or maybe contribute in a way where we can say, yes, we can do this aspect, and we can and take up all this. So I think this is one I just want to contribute in that way, and I think the talks are important. We should come up with some suggestions, action plans, and my colleague Shakti Prabhaji is from Chennai. She's here, and Vishanti ji is also here. I think we should have some. And I think Habibur I will request you. You are doing wonderful job in this negativity kind of environment where people at least can see on this phones or maybe on laptop or sitting at home and they can contribute. But I think you just talks ke baad mein you just add action also. So the how we can whatever we are discussing. So there should be some outcome of it also because social workers are meant for known for action actually. So this is the time for action on this platform. I just want to say the last word that this is the time where we have to unite, we have to connect among each other, and we have to focus on various aspects. Then only we can save our profession. We can take forward our professional social work profession. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Very good discussion. Let's come to Dr. Vishanti, and before coming to her, actually, I have few more comments because it's a time constraint. After Dr. Vishanti, then you will get just, 1 or 2 minutes just to go to conclusion. That would be the last talk. But with Dr. Chawan, actually, me as an academician, when I visited few more countries and conferences and get some talks from legendary professor, I was impressed, and I asked equally that without coming to the field, coming to the action, coming to solve problem directly, doing how it's possible. Only if social worker keeps stand in academic learning and teaching in the classroom, how we can do. Actually, from that time, from 2012, 13, 14, after that time, I became motivated. I founded a foundation. My vision is my student definitely got some teaching from classroom and they will directly go back to their field work. They will work and they will use the knowledge that they are getting from Dr. Vishanti. As you have so many experiences, wide experiences, of course, compared to me and some other scholars, because we are very junior and newcomer in that part. But we do believe that Dr. Shakti told that Professor Chawan mentioned here, social workers should be united. Social workers should be more proactive in field rather than academic. Academically, social work is much renowned in the world, but in practice, even in Bangladesh, India, Nepal, and some other parts in Middle East, Asian, different countries, social work is not in a good position. Association, organization, social work is very poor in that sense. By name, there are organizations, but in function, these are really hardly to say. So how could you please, in practice manner, how could you satisfy us, Dr. Vishanti? Actually, we are very in lack of support in field level, rather academic teaching and learning. And there were a few more questions that you already noted down. So your time will be 7 to 8 minutes. That is actually the last time. And after that, we'll just conclude and pack up the session. And dear viewers, those who are watching, many thanks to all of you. There are so many questions. Comment come from Nepal, different parts of India, Middle East, South Africa, USA, Argentina, Philippines, Indonesia, and there are so many friends joined here. So greetings to all of you. Please be with us and share this, please, so that many other friends could, of course, learn from this and they can actualize and they can make into action. Let's come to Dr. Vishanti. Vishanti, welcome.
Thank you. I think, it's false to create this dichotomy between academia and practice. We can't have good academia without good practice and vice versa. Having said that, I think, being organized on the ground nationally, regionally, and so on can make a huge difference. Just in relation to COVID-19 and what's happening in South Africa, I think I alluded to at the beginning that when we started the lockdown, I think our government did a very good job, in the initial phase. And I think that early intervention saved, perhaps about 20,000 lives. But over time, I think we've been losing the plot, with regard to some of the regulations, with regard to lockdown, and some of the promises that were made by government that were not delivered to people, particularly in relation to social security and poverty alleviation. Now, in South Africa, we have strong bodies like the Association of Social Work Education Bodies. We've got ASWA, the Association of Schools of Social Work in Africa. And recently, SWAN has been formed, Social Work Action Network South Africa. And these bodies have been taking on quite a lead advocacy role in South Africa. They've detailed, what's been happening around the pandemic, particularly around extremely vulnerable groups of people, particularly women and children, put together a very, very detailed statement, which was published in the media, and it was sent to government. And, we joined forces with, COVID-19 Coalition and other progressive bodies. So that kind of formal bodies, at national and regional levels can actually play a very profound role in terms of giving social work the legitimacy, the status that it requires, and in terms of giving it voice in a public domain, because we need to adopt our rightful role, not only in terms of case management, child protection, and the direct services that we provide, but we do need to take our rightful place with regard to advocacy, with regard to lobbying, serving as social activists, and so on. And I think this is the strength of social work. We tend to focus on problems, but we also know that, people have resilience, people have strengths. But what about us as social workers? And I think I would like to ask us, what's our stories in the face of COVID? I mean, people have asked questions around, what would happen with inequality post-COVID? What would happen around the gains that we've made? We don't have certainty whether it would continue. How can we deal with racism? Clearly, these are huge questions to be responsive to, within 3 minutes, right? But what I want to say is that as social workers, if we can use COVID to be the best social workers we can be, and more importantly, perhaps to be the best human beings that we can be. And we can see it. What were our gains? How did we reach out? Right? What were our positive engagements? What are your stories of success? I mean, we know that Professor Rahman has got his wonderful story of success with this network that we have. We also know that, as much as COVID has been creating physical distancing, it has also created greater, in some ways, social solidarity amongst people. People have been getting together, online, and we've got digital, advocacy and protest that's going on. And freed from the fast pace of life, many of us are gaining a deeper appreciation of the freedoms that we've taken so much for granted. Now, I cannot answer the big questions, around whether or not the gains will be sustained. What's going to happen to inequality post-COVID? What's going to happen, and how are we going to deal with racism? But what I do know is that each one of us has it within the power of our influence to alter our attitudes, our values, and our behaviors towards each other. If we are willing to give up some of our privileged positions in relation to class, in relation to caste privilege, and so on, then maybe, just maybe, we'll create a dent in this neoliberal, capitalist, greedy world that we're living in. But we cannot lay the responsibility entirely out there. The laws, the policies, the programs, and things like that you and I so vehemently criticize are representations of the collectivities of consciousness of you and me. So I think it's really important that we consider this. We are all complicit in racism, right? in class discrimination, in gender discrimination, each one of us is complicit. And if we can commit to making ourselves the best human beings that we can be, if we're willing to engage really very, very reflexively to question our complicities, then maybe we can work towards a world that's really anti-racist. But if you ask the 7 billion people in the world, are you racist or are you sexist or whatever prejudice that we have, each one of us will say no. And then we've got to ask the question, then how come all these things that we abhor so much continues, not just from one generation to the next, but from 1 millennium to the next? And it's because you and I reproduce it, very often unconsciously so. We pass on these values of racism and sexism and xenophobia, and whatever else that we do not like in our world, we are communicating those messages to our children. And we've got to stop it. Now we've got, George Floyd, and we know the knee-jerk reaction that we have across the world with Black Lives Matter. And yes, we can join global protest movements like that. We can, I grew up with the Black consciousness movement in South Africa that made me acutely aware, of issues of race, because I grew up, in an apartheid system that made me even more aware of how I needed to check my own prejudices, my own discriminations, and how I was acting them out. But as long as we're not willing to engage in that level of reflexivity, I'm afraid we're not going to get rid of caste discrimination that's so entrenched in many parts of the world, that is as vile and abhorrent as racism is. And we're not going to get rid of sexism. We may scream out loud against femicide, but as long as we treat our sons and daughters differently in our own homes, and as long as we raise them to remain in little boxes, as long as we privilege the boy child over the girl child, then I think we're going to have very little inroads to deal with these major problems in the world that we're talking about. So my appeal is, let's begin with us. Let's begin in our own homes. Let's begin with the way we treat the person next to us. If me, and the people right next to me can choose to become the best human being we can be, we will in itself contribute to a more peaceful world, and perhaps a world based on a little bit of equality. Okay, Professor Raman?
That's great. That's great. Actually, so many questions and answer, of course, were diverse. At time constraint, initially mentioned 1 hour 30 minutes, is already 3 minutes over. So another 7 minutes. I beg your pardon. And of course, dear viewers, please share it more with your more friends, and please pardon me as I didn't mention all of your name. Take all the questions and comments. Actually, all questions, comments, more or less closely similar, and holistic discussion were on. I think 3 veteran speakers, Dr. Shakti, Professor Chawan, and Dr. Vishanti, excellently they described that all the issues together. As time constraint, actually it's a long discussion, long debate. There are so many questions, so many areas, but I think nicely they summed it up. And before coming to last 1 minute and 30 seconds talk, I would like to convey my gratitude that in all session I must do. That is my gratitude to Almighty, my sincere regards, my consolation and feelings, good feelings, convey to all the police force, defense, government, non-government officials, the best sufferer, the frontline fighters of COVID, those who are actually fighting to give us support daily just to protect us. So I'm coming back again to Dr. Shakti. Shakti Prabha, your time is less 90 seconds. Actually, this is less 90 seconds. You have to greet the people. You have to expose your feelings and your commitment to be the best human being as a social worker that we could do for people in community during and post-COVID time. That actually social worker does normally. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rahman. We have been hearing a lot of questions on this. So everyone is we are all talking about different problems which we are seeing in this COVID situation. So a lot of problems are there. We have learned so many lessons. We talk about environment, we talk about other issues, and a lot of changes have come, and a lot of uncertainties have come. So all these all the social problems which we are talking now, it's not something new. It has been existing earlier also, but now we feel no, there is a rise. So we take this issue very seriously, because a pandemic and with the social problem, when it joins together, it becomes much more serious. So the main area what we need to work out is actions, as professors have shared before me. So now it is very important that we have to look into the solution for this problem. So I agree with Professor Vishanti. She said it starts with us. So really each one of us, the social work educator or practitioner or students, so first we have to look into us. What am I going to be prepared for this post-COVID scenario? So what is my contribution towards the people where I live in? What is my contribution to the students as a social work educator? So what I am going to do it? So here in Chennai, we all social workers are all part of telecounseling services, which is very, very important. So we are taking a lot of calls from the various children's and other adults through the various telecounseling services, and we are offering whatever the need they are raising. So it's very important that we have to look in what are the solid actions what we are going to take. And we all know that this problem is going to prevail for a certain period of time. And now we have to work on this. We have to get prepared, and also to make try to bring a lot of changes in others' life, because we social workers, we always call as change makers. So another one area what we are now talking about is spirituality, which is very, very essential in COVID-19. And now we are talking about values, which is very much essential, because we are really seeing a lot of discrimination happening, especially when people are COVID positive. The people are reacting in a very different way. So the children in that kind of family, they also face these kind of discrimination. So there is a need of value-based community. So that is what we have to work on. So we really have to tell people that these are the areas. So as a social worker, the first and foremost is we have to spread awareness, which is very, very essential. Professor Rahman is doing that by bringing all the professionals in this common forum, and we are discussing about so many aspects. It is really giving us a platform to highlight what are the important areas the social work educators and practitioners have to concentrate. And second thing is what kind of actions what we can do with the resources available in the community. The one challenge in India what we have is that we don't have a council, and that is one challenge we really face. And in spite of this, we are really putting a lot of efforts to bring changes in others' life. So let us think on what I am going to contribute to the society where I am, and what are my preparation for this post-COVID. One question which arises in my mind is post-COVID. So when that post-COVID is going to come, so that I keep on thinking, because now at this point we are in COVID pandemic situation, and we are in lockdown. So we need to take very important needed action to handle the current situation, economically, socially, and psychologically. So that is the need of the day. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Shakti, there are so many friends join later on. Actually, they were watching Beatrice Vargas, Amit Rajput, Nikita, Soni, Pradipta Kadambari. Actually, they were watching this show from very beginning. And at the summary, I'm coming back to Professor Prashant Chawan. And before coming to him, actually, I'm trying to host this session more frequent. It's very tough to communicate friends and prepare this thing. It's very, very tough. And there are electricity problem, internet problem. And after all this thing, I have my kids, my family, I have some works, right? Academic tasks, but that actually we are trying to do, just carrying through a sharing process on different aspects that I believe it's like an archive. People can see and watch later on after this, and they can have some idea from different corners of the world, different voices, different paradigm shift might be there. So On 22nd, there is another session. Actually, from this view reflection, we will host the session on 22nd. I would love to show you that poster, two veteran speakers, one from USA, one from Bangladesh. They will join on 22nd. This is the poster here. Claire Melanthin, she is Director of Child and Adolescent Services, Wasata Family Therapy Utah, and she was President of Utah, USA, and Professor Dr. Nasiruddin Mitul, Dean, School of Undergraduate Studies, National University, Bangladesh, and he has already written so many columns during family crisis, child crisis, and frustration during this COVID. So that's why I invited to these veterans just to speak on child and adolescent care during COVID-19, good parenting concerns. So that would be discussed on 22nd. So my friends will be joining on 22nd accordingly, just at 9 p.m. Bangladesh time. So let's come to Professor Prashant Chawang. What should social worker do? Really, this is a big question, because from Europe, America, Middle East, Asia, everywhere, I was just looking for what social worker are doing. We find
Yeah.
some actions in field, still social worker absent, but social workers present is highly needed beside government, beside defense, beside police, beside academic institutions, hospitals, industry, everywhere. Social worker is a very burning issue, burning question, and they definitely have a great importance. So what is your suggestion, sir? We can just go ahead with the collective efforts just to bring
Yeah.
social work in light. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think very well said, because we are talking about problems, and there are certain things which very good work also being done during this period. And like, I'm also the part of executive body of National Association of Professional Social Workers in India, and we recently had a conversation series in which all the lot of topics were covered from on education perspective and practice perspective and fieldwork perspective, and many people came from academia and from industry, and they spoke. On the other hand, if I see that as an association, a lot of work is being done where in the PM Care Fund, it was some amount was donated, and on the other hand, helpline was started in Ahmednagar, Maharashtra. On the other hand, if I see the different school of social workers, so each institution is trying on whatever they can do, but the problem was that because of lockdown situation, nobody was able to go outside from home, and as social workers, our main gist was this only, that we go and directly work in the community. But on the other hand, there are various ways where I just want to share that my students in helped the district administrations in setting up quarantine centers, and maybe the giving them counseling. There are a lot of engagement in the relief work, and online also a lot of activities were being done. So I think and the major problem in our field is this, that documentation and representation in the media, basically. So because people, what they do, this is not being there is no platform. And I was speaking to you also once on that aspect, that what people are doing, it is not being represented in a way so that others can know ki what social workers are doing. You will find that very less articles are there in terms of when we are talking about professional social workers, ki what they are doing. So I think this is one important area where whatever the stories of social work people are there, they should be highlighted so that others can know ki what their fraternity and their as a team people are doing. This is one on a important aspect. On the other hand, when we are talking about connect and network, lot of people are wants to work, they wants to come forward, they want to contribute, but there is no as such something where they can come forward together and they should work. They can work. So I think this
Right.
is one area where we have one area where we need to work. And like this platform and other platforms, a lot of conversations and online chats are these days going on. Some people are criticizing also that there is a mushrooming of webinars, this and that. But I think I take this all as in a positive way, that at least people are coming, sharing, discussing, because first you discuss, make a plan, and then you come into the discussion. So I think all these
That's
discussions
great.
should come up in a way, and in wherever we are, in whatever capacity we are, like we should contribute in that way. And a lot of digital, like I'm just sharing one experience, that one organization in Gautam Budh Nagar, Noida, where I am in Delhi NCR, they have developed one application that and through that application, what was happening during this COVID-19, that in the relief work, the exactly the person who was in need was not getting food, and others were getting many times and much more food. So that was the idea behind that. They had developed the application, and it was on geotagging based, that where the food is being distributed and where the relief work is being given, and administration was also monitoring it, and in that way there was a very good model was developed to help the people. And for example, if anyone has given some donation or relief work to one group, so then it is updated on the application, and they are using it other way. There are a lot of stories through NSS, National Service Scheme. Lot of
Yeah, yeah,
initiatives
yeah. Good.
departments have taken. So I think all this, there is a long story, and I think as I discussed, we have also started one social work times platform where we are trying to collect and cover those stories, ki what people are doing. And I think this is one of your story also, that what you are doing, at least whatever you can through this network, and you are taking forward it. I think many people are doing so. We should or take all these, and I think these stories and these aspects inspire others, and especially to the young generation. I'm focusing because they are right now in very much depression and dilemma, that 2020 batch, what will happen to the placement, what will happen to the future. And current students are also facing a lot of issues in terms of summer internships, in terms of field work, and various things. So I think we all should join hands together. There should be some continuous network kind of thing, a group we can create, an action group at an international globally level, where we can discuss local problems, we can contribute in a way, if we can take successful models from each other, what people are doing in education, in practice, and in socially, so that we can improve our profession. Yeah, thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you, Professor Chawan. Actually, we are in the last part of talk. So, Dr. Vishant, could you hear me? Please unmute your microphone, please, Hussain.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all right. Before coming to you, just this last minute for me, actually, how I start this. During this COVID, we should try for all our speakers that I could learn really just to make myself suitable, best fit. I should think for the best alternative, because there are so many hazards, there are so many problems, obstacles, barriers came during this time, during COVID. This is invisible, unseen virus, unwanted, unexpected virus during this time. So I thought, I talked to my wife initially at the very beginning of this COVID in Dhaka, Bangladesh. I just went out with some of my students and colleagues to support people, providing them some food, some food cranes, some like money, even some other thing, potatoes, rice, and something logistic support. But when lockdown happens, I thought it's not the proper way, because officially we are prohibited to just go on that project. So I stayed home. I just think my alternative maybe if I can have some interaction with so many friends and knowledge sharing through some motivation, some talks, so scholar and the academicians or the students, graduates might not be frustrated after that networking connections and knowledge, because it's very tough to cover all the people together, root level people, agricultural people, industry people. If we just try to cover all people together, it might be very tough. So at least that we are trying to cover those category people, those who are still in frustration during this COVID due to their job placement, job seeking, frustration in job, frustration at family, in field placement. So many things are there. That's why this is the effort really. So this last 2 minutes for Dr. Vishanti, this 2 minutes for you. Please carry on with your last 2 minutes talk, please. Thank you.
Well, Professor Rahman, I want to again say congratulations. With what you're doing, to me, it seems like it is intuition-inspired action. You have followed, I think, your soul and done whatever you can, and you're doing whatever you can within the sphere of your influence to keep people from various parts of the world connected. If we're looking for examples, I think IASSW and IFSW have actually been collecting stories of social workers, on the ground, what they're doing and how they're working during this COVID-19 period. So if we link onto their websites, we will find stories of social workers and social work academics and researchers and what they are doing. And earlier I spoke a little bit about South Africa in terms of like the advocacy and social activism role that we've been fulfilling. But friends and colleagues, I just want to end up saying that I think I found my moments of synchronicity during COVID-19. And Phil Cosenius defines synchronicity as an inexplicable and profoundly meaningful coincidence that stirs the soul and offers a glimpse of one's destiny. I just want to ask, what about each one of us on this program here? Are we going to look for our moments of synchronicities in COVID? Are we going to allow that to inspire action? Not only, narrowly defined by theories and technique and strategy, but where we inspired by our intuition and galvanized into action. Like Professor Rahman took this opportunity to link and connect people across the world. How are we going to use our moments of synchronicities? What stirs our souls during this time of this pandemic so that we galvanize into action for the greater good of humanity? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Vishanti, for a wonderful talk. Really, I'm very, very impressed, and so far I could believe all the friends and followers and speakers. We are very, very impressed, and this way, I think social work will be going on to the end destinations, really, to serve the humanity, to serve the people, to build a better community. We are end of the session. Just love to say goodbye to everybody and dear viewers. This video will be kept preserved in our Community Talks YouTube channel. Community Talks, this is kind of community archive. Actually, this is my motive to just do something for the humanity, do something for the community. I do believe to see a better community, I have to be better first. I have to be workable first. I have to be a good human being first to serve to see a better community. If I rely on somebody, rather being self-reliant, I can never hope to see a better community. So let's come together and just do together for creating a good family, good and sound community for the better human environment for future. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Vishanti.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Dr. Prabha. And
thank you.
It was lovely sharing this podium with you.
So hope to invite you again later on. Let's talk just my dialogue that is from Napoleon Bonaparte, that I share in all episodes. The world suffers a lot, not because of the violence of the bad people. The world suffers a lot because of the silence of the good people. So we shouldn't be that level honest people without any courage. We have to raise our voice and vocal together to bring a better and sound community. Thank you, everybody. Salute to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.